Today I'm going to read a story called Henry Keeps Score. Are you ready to listen? Okay, I'm going to read you the story. Harriet, Henry, called Mrs. Hedges. Rise and shine, it's time to get up. Harriet rolled her bed and yawned. 5 more minutes, Mom, she said. Okay, sleepyhead, said Mrs. Hedges. Henry's eyes flew open. If she gets 5 minutes, I get 5 minutes, he said. Henry wiggled out under the covers. No more than 5, or you won't have time for breakfast, said Mrs. Hedges. Yes, like that. 5 minutes later, Harriet smelled really something good. So did Henry. They hurried downstairs. Yum, said Harriet. Pancakes. She took 4. Mom, said Henry. Harriet got 4 pancakes. I only got 3. Harriet got more than I did. Isn't 3 enough for you? Asked Mrs. Hedges. If she gets 4, I get 4, said Henry. Mrs. Hedges gave him 1 more. Said Henry, because his mouth was full. Yes, she had 4, but he had 3. After school, Harriet fed the dog and Henry fed the cat. Harriet cleaned the birdcage. Henry took out the garbage. Harriet picked all her toys. Henry put all his dirty socks in the hamper. She does 3 jobs and I do 3 jobs, thought Henry. Good. When they were finished, Mrs. Hedges asked them what they liked to snack. A glass of milk and 3 cookies, please, said Harriet. A glass of milk and 10 cookies, please, said Henry. 10 cookies, said Harriet. That's too much. You can have 3, said Mrs. Hedges. The same as Harriet. Well, okay, said Henry. Yes, 10 cookies are too much. It's not healthy. And yeah, like that. That night, Harriet had a pajama party. Judy, Stephanie, Megan, and Wendy all slept over. They had a great time. Oh, Harriet's friends are here. I want a pajama party too, said Henry. Okay, said Mrs. Hedges. Who would you want to invite? Owen, Luke, and Ted, said Henry, counting on his fingers. And Uncle Ray. Uncle Ray? Asked Mrs. Hedges. Isn't he little old for a sleepover? Harriet had 4 people, said Henry. If she gets 4, I get 4. All right, Henry, said Mrs. Hedges. Owen, Luke, Ted, and Uncle Ray come to Henry's pajama party. They had a good time. The next day, the Hedges family went shopping. They started off at the bookstore. Harry got a book, and Henry got a book. They went to a clothing store next. Harry got a sweater, a dress, and a hat. Yeah. Henry got a sweater and a shirt. I want a hat too, he said. You already have a hat, said Mrs. Hedges, and you don't need another one, said Mrs. Hedges. Harry got 3 things, said Henry. If she gets 3, I get 3. Not today, said their parents. Said Henry. Not fair. He feels sad. He can be sad. That night, Harry called a friend. I want to make a phone call too, said Henry. Who would you like to call? Asked Mrs. Hedges. Henry thought. Santa, he said. Santa's on vacation, Henry, said Mrs. Hedges. We'll write him into the thanking-bird. Then I'll call Grandma, said Henry. That's a good idea, said Mrs. Hedges. She dialed on the number. Harry made a phone call, so I did, too. Henry told his grandmother, I get to make many calls as she does. Well, I'm very glad you called me, his grandmother said. The next day, Harriet and Henry went to see the dentist, Mr. Carey. Harriet spent a long time with him. When she came out, she said, I had a cavity. Henry called, a cavity? He said, you have a cavity? Oh, wait a minute. Really, wait a minute. Sorry, yeah, I said cavity. Really sorry. Henry, I had a cavity. Henry gulped. A cavity? He said, you have a cavity? Yes, said Harriet. Your turn. Cavity. When Mr. Carey looked at every single one of Henry's teeth, it took a long time and Henry was nervous. Finally, Mr. Carey patted Henry's shoulder. Good for you, he said. No cavities. No cavities, Henry told Harriet and Mrs. Hedges. You're lucky, said Harriet. I know, said Henry. He's really, really lucky. That night, Henry's mother said, You were brave at the dentist today. Harriet's had a cavity, said Henry. Do you wish you had a cavity too? Asked Mrs. Hedges. I don't like cavity actually, so no. Asked Mrs. Hedges. Just like Harriet? No, said Henry. No. Just checking, said his mother, kissing him good night. When Mrs. Hedges turned to Harriet in. You were brave at the dentist today, she said. Thanks, Mom, said Harriet. Mrs. Hedges kissed her good night's sleep. Can I have one more kiss? Asked Harriet. What do you think, Henry? Asked Mrs. Hedges. Henry thought about Harriet and her cavity. Yes, he said, she can. And Mrs. Hedges gave Harriet one more kiss. Yeah, this is a really good story. Do you love this story? I really, really love this story. You know, like, these stories are usually really, really fun. You know, always talking about stories is really, really fun. And thank you for listening to my story. Bye.